So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom, and time for another rambles from me. So lots of stuff going on. First up, I've delayed. You've obviously noticed I've delayed launching the video for another day. So I usually used to produce rambles on a Thursday, or publish it on a Thursday, but I was finding that I'm putting up on a Thursday and suddenly there was a whole load of news coming in. So I'm going to try on a Friday and see whether that's any better. If not, I might even slip it to a Saturday, but just so you know, it's changed days. It's not because I didn't get out of bed or couldn't be asked, it's just I thought I might pick up on more news that's breaking. That always seems to come out on a Thursday after I've already published. So that's the rationale. So anyway, in this edition, lots and lots of stuff, loads of premiums, loads of new premiums going super testing. It's scary how many there are coming through. We're going to look at the patch notes for the next patch 9.2.1. We're also going to look at, dare I say it, matchmaking. Don't mention that. It's like I mentioned it once and I got away with it. Reference there that some people will get. What else? Yeah. Also, the biggest news of the day, or the week, I think, is the removal of the Death Star. This is the latest rumour of swapping out of tanks. So we'll talk about that and what might be a potential replacement. So the big news this week is that Wargaming are apparently looking to replace the Death Star, the FV215B183, the terror of the Tier 10 world. This thing, if you've ever encountered it, particularly if you're in a lower tier vehicle, it's just death on legs. It has a vicious HE shell, which is absolutely devastating. So we're going to be looking to replace it. It's not that they're trying to kill our fun, although people will say that. It's primarily because, and actually I kind of agree with them, if you look at the line that the FV sits on, it sits on the 82, 88, 8015 tortoise kind of line. And all that line are all very similar. They tend to be big, slow-moving, heavily armoured, rapid-firing, low-alpha guns. Whereas then you get to the Tier 10, the FV215B, and it's got a big-ass cannon on it that absolutely obliterates people, but has a ridiculously long reload. And that just doesn't really fit. And you saw the same thing with the German tanks. They swapped them around to make it a more logical line that you're working way through. So FE is a bit of an anathema. It sort of sits there on its own, and you can see why they would look to do that. Although it is one of the most popular tanks at Tier 10 in the game. I think that whole line is not particularly popular, but people love working their way through just to get to the Death Star because of that huge cannon. So no idea yet what will happen with it. There's not even a name for the replacement, but this is Daily Bounce reporting that this could well be the replacement tank, and it's quite a sleek looking thing, isn't it? Rather neat. But you can see it's much more akin to the tortoise. In fact, he's suggesting it should be called a super tortoise. It's got a fixed 120 millimeter gun on it. So yeah, what will happen to the Death Star, whether or not they go ahead with this, we don't know. If it goes ahead in the same way that the other changes have happened with the Foch and soon coming FV, then I think it could well be that you get to keep the Death Star as some sort of special premium tank, and you get this thing for free if you've unlocked it. So in case, I would suggest that you do as much grinding down that line if you are determined to get to the Death Star and to get it to keep, because again, with the other changes, it's unlikely the Death Star will come back into the game. Now, it is very popular, so it could be that they do something with it and bring it back as something else, but who knows. It'll be very interesting. I'm certainly going to be I'm on the Tier 8 at the moment, so this won't come in 9.20, 9.20.1. It may be the patch after that, so you've probably got a good couple of months until this happens, if indeed it does happen. But If you want to get the Death Star, get your ATs out and work your way through the tortoise and try and unlock the Death Star and buy it. That's the other thing. Got to have it in your garage to get this replacement. If indeed it happens, we shall see. But what do you think? It's another one of the grand old dames of the game. One of the things that has all the character, brings a lot of character to the game. The Death Star is one of those things that just love it or hate it. It's one of those features of World of Tanks that will be missed, I think. And it'd be a shame if they do actually replace it, but I could sort of see why they might. Anyway, thoughts down below. So this is pretty big news. World of Tanks apparently is looking at a new mini French heavy tank branch. And this will differ from the existing branch that you have in game, which is all autoloaders. This one will actually have armour, so a bit like the Liberté kind of idea. So this is Daily Bounce. He's got some nice snapshots. This is the proposed Tier 8 Amx 65T. This is the Tier 9. Don't know what the name is. And that's the Tier 10, which looks pretty good actually. So basically the idea is it'll match the Amx M4 49 in playstyle, which I think is a good idea because it kind of, that's an oddity. It's an odd tank, and then you sort of head down an autoloader line with that. And actually, I quite like the Amx M4. I know people will scream at me that I'm an idiot, but I actually quite enjoyed that tank. But then I don't really like the autoloaders on the French line. They just don't work for me for some reason. I know people again will shout at me and say you're an idiot, and that's probably true. But the main concept between this mini branch, so it probably go from Tier 7, the existing Tier 7 AMX M4 49, up through these other 3 new tanks is the plan. And the idea behind them, they'll have heavy armour, but less mobility and a single shot gun, which will give you an alternative line to the AMX 50B branch, which, yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I like the look of some of these tanks. That looks quite a nice tank. That looks like it's got a big head. Can't really tell on that one, but yeah. New French heavy tanks. Who would thunk that the French had so many heavy tanks? So Wargaming's continued quest to milk its player base continues with the return of the awful Panzer, the Panzer 5. This used to be, what was it, a Tier 5 premium tank? Or was it? I forget now. It used to be a regular tank in the tech tree. And it was taken out some time ago, replaced by the Spic. Oh, so it must be a Tier 7 or something like that. Anyway, whatever. It was one of those tanks that people, it was a real Marmite tank. People loved or hated. They removed it some time ago, and there was always a rumour that they would bring it back as a premium, and sure enough, here it is. Now, one of the unique things about this thing, it's basically like a chassis of a Panther, I believe, so it's got a massive, heavy chassis, and was one of those tanks that actually was renowned for being able to ram other lights, because it had the body weight and the little bit of armour to be able to do so. So they're testing it at the moment, super testing, as a Tier 8 premium light tank. And one of the things is Harkonnen's saying in the Daily Bounce, it's interesting about it, is it only fires APCR. That is it, which is a really odd thing. So here we go. This is the stats: 1,100 hit points, has a 75 long 53 millimeter gun, which only fires APCR, as we said, but has a penetration of 221. Wow, that's a Tier 8 light tank. That's pretty damn good. But the damage is only 135, so it's a low DPM, low alpha, high rate of fire kind of gun. Reload of 3.8 seconds, so 15.6 rounds per minute. Aim time is extremely good, 1.44. Damage per minute 2,111. Accuracy is an excellent 0.288. So this thing is going to be, if you can keep hidden or keep at distance, you can really do, keep that gun firing at that sort of rate of fire. Wow. -10 gun depression is very nice. 40 and 46 hull and turret traverses, so it's very nimble. top speed of 60. Excellent. Has a little bit of armour, so 85, 50 and 40 on the hull, and you can see that's quite well. Let's see with the other view. Yeah, it's not bad angling, not bad angling at all. So it's a kind of heavyweight light tank. Turret's garbage, 50, 30, 30, but you know, you'd expect that. 900 horsepower engine on a, yeah, look at this, it's going to be a ramming beast. 41 ton machine on a 900 horsepower engine with 85 frontal armour. Yeah, you're going to be able to ram things. 16.9% concealment when stationary, 16.9 when moving, because lights have the same rating when they're moving or stationary. 390 view range. Wow, that's pretty good for a tier 8. They've given a tier 8 decent view range. 5-man crew. That could be challenging because most of your German lights don't have 5 men, I don't think. If memory serves. Anyway, that's interesting. The Alpha Panzer may be coming back. Certainly being tested. So, anybody out there love the Alpha Panzer when it was in the game as a proper tier tank? I can't say I was one of the fans of it. I have to say I was quite pleased when it went because I just unlocked it and was playing a few games in it. But yeah, not my favourite. But I know some people did. They really liked it. Let me know. So another premium light tank in test. This time a French one, tier 8, called the Amx ELC Even 90. Okay. Has a 2-man crew, so a bit like the normal ELC at tier 5, is it? I forget. Kind of an interesting looking vehicle. Let's have a look at the pictures here. Looks like a robot tank, doesn't it? It definitely looks like a robot tank. Good God. Huh. So in super tests, so remember, as with all super tests, stats can change. 1,000 hit points, so slightly less than the Alpha Panzer. 90mm gun, a bit like the ELC in the tech tree has. 775 pen, 215 with APCR and 45. So the comparison with the Alpha Panzer is very clear there. So the Alpha had 200 and something. This has 175. That's quite a difference actually. But the Alpha's much bigger. 240 average Alpha. It's a reload. It's an autoloader. Okay, magazine, 35 second reload. 5 shells in the magazine. 2.5 between each shell reloads. Rate of fire gives you 6.6 rounds per minute. Aim time is pretty good for an autoloader. 2.1. DPM is 1,600, which is garbage, but then autoloaders tend to have that. Accuracy is not particularly well. Actually, it's not too bad really. 0.36 accuracy. Gun depression of -9, 45 hull traverse and 46 turret traverse is pretty darn good, and top speed is a whopping 70 kph. That's very good. But the price you pay is 0 armor, so 15, 10 and 10, 15, 10 and 10 on the turret. So yeah, so it does have a fully traversable turret by the look of it, which is good, with the autoloader inside it. Engine is only 160, but it only weighs just under 7 tons, so you're getting a power ratio of 23.8, which is okay, nothing spectacular, but it's pretty good. And as you'd expect, concealment value is extremely good, 38.8, which will be that'll be 100% without any camo or anything else. You'll probably be able to get that well over 50. 390 view range is also very good, and as I said, 2-man crew, so that's an intriguing one. I like the sound of that one. I like these sort of oddity tanks, and that certainly is an oddity. Martian looking. Anyway, thoughts down below. So still the premium tanks keep coming. There's another one being super tested at the moment. This is the Kirov 1, which is kind of an IS-3 clone. Now I believe from hearing what people said, I think Sam on one of the videos I follow said that this tank originally went into the game files about 2 years ago and has never seen the light of day for some reason. Now it could be just even Wargaming think we've got too many tier 8 Russian heavy tanks, but you know, when's that stopped them before? Now the speculation is that this may form part of the new personal mission rewards when they come through. But whatever, it's an interesting looking vehicle. 1,550 hit points, 720 horsepower, 47 tons. So it has a power ratio of 15, which is pretty good for a heavy tank. 42 top speed, which is very good. So very much in the mould of the IS-3. Hull traverse of 26 degrees per second, turret traverse of 24 degrees. View range is typically Russian horrible, 360. Armour 140, 160. Now what's interesting, if you look at the picture, is it doesn't have the beak that the IS-3 has, the pointed nose. So, and with that side armour, this could be a real beast of a side scraping tank. Very, very good at that, I should imagine. Which makes it interesting, I think, for most of us. And that's actually been buffed. So they've been buffed its hull. Before it's even seen the light of day, it's been buffed. Turret armour is also very, very good. 195, 120 and 100, which is pretty good. Now, I wonder whether it's got the same weak spot that the IS-3 has, which is this hatch above the gun. If it does, it kind of makes everything for naught on that turret. But yeah, interesting. Same 120mm gun that all the Russians come with. 221 base penetration, 270 with its premium rounds. 390 is fairly standard for that gun. On damage, rate of fire 4.6. DPM is not particularly great, 1,800. Accuracy is a horrible 0.45, and aim time a pretty horrible 3.1. But gun depression is pretty bad as well, -5. But you know, you'd be used to these with these sort of Russian tanks. It's quite a nice looking tank though. I think you'll agree. It's clearly a clone, an IS-3 clone. Oh look, no, it's still got the weak spot above the gun. There you go, 20 to 30 mils according to this. But the rest of the front is very powerful. Is that spaced at the side? Yeah, I think it is. So yeah, very nice. This will be a side scraping beast as long as nobody realizes they just need to load HE and hit you above the gun, because it will auto pen, being so soft. But nice looking tank. Nice looking tank. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on that, although hopefully it's a reward tank and we don't have to put our hands in our pockets. Let's hope. And yet another premium tank. So we've seen with the Thunderbolt and the Tiger 131, Wargaming are introducing these sort of what they're calling tank ace vehicles. And they're going to be introducing a new Russian one. Yeah, it's Russian, even though it's a Sherman. So this is the M4A2 Sherman Laza. This is a tank that was driven by Dmitry Laza, who was a commander of this vehicle in the Second World War. Now, why were Shermans in the Russian army in the Second World War? That's because of a thing called Lend-Lease, which was basically the US and the UK sent Russia a whole load of armoured fighting vehicles and jeeps and trucks and I think even planes to help them in the early stages of the war with Germany, because their production had been so severely damaged by the blitzkrieg that hit them, and it was in the interest of the Western Allies to keep Russia fighting, and so providing them with a whole load of kit made perfect sense. And if you ever want to read some true heroism and harrowing stories, frankly, read about the convoys that went round the Arctic Circle, around the north of Scandinavia and into Russia from the top end, if you like. Ships, British and American ships, transporting all this war material to the Russians to help them in their war against the Germans. I mean, they just horrendous. Those northern convoys just went through hell to deliver these vehicles. And it's fair to say a lot of these vehicles were not particularly well liked by the Russians. But you know, they may do with what they can. So this is one of those vehicles. It is it's kind of a hybrid of the M4 and a jumbo stroke, Easy 8. It's a variant of the Sherman, so you will be familiar if you're used to any kind of Sherman M4 tank what this is like. It's a tier 6 Russian premium. The stats are very similar to all the standard Sherman type chassis, so 400 horsepower engine giving you 12 power ratio, which is not fantastic, top speed of 51, hull traverse of 44 degrees per second, turret traverse of 38 degrees, view range of 370 meters, hull armor 63.5, 38, 38, turret 63.5, 63.5, 63.5. So yeah, nothing particularly special. Uses the standard 76 gun that most of these Shermans have. Penetration 128, 177 with premium, 115 average damage. Rate of fire is very high, so it's a high rate of fire, low damage model gun, again, that you'll be familiar with if you've used the 76 in your American and even British tanks. 18.18 rounds per minute, DPM of 2000, which is pretty good. Reload time of 3.3, and accuracy is not great, 0.4. Aim time is also not great, 2.3. But gun depression on the tank is very good, -10. So I guess these are collector's items, really. They're not... if you've got Shermans in your garage and you're a bit addicted to Shermans, then you may well want to buy this thing. But you know, there's so many Russian medium tanks in premiums in the game. Unless you're a particular collector, it's probably going to want one you keep away from. But bearing in mind the Wargaming's main audience are in Russia and the Russian states, it probably will go down well because it's a hero of the Republic, right? Oh, well, not Republic, hero of the USSR, and they like those kind of things. So we'll see whether it sells well, but it's being super tested, so it'll be coming soon to a shop near you. So as we know, in the next patch, the FV whatever it is, FV215B, the British Tier 10 heavy tank, is being removed and replaced with the Super Conqueror. Not really sure why they're doing it. I can understand the logic in with the replacement of the Foch and also the replacement of the Death Star, because they don't really fit in the lines. But the FV did, apart from being a rear mounted turret, it did really seem to sit pretty much fairly well within the British heavy tech tree. So I'm a bit surprised that they're replacing it, but they are. So this will be in the next patch, 9.20.1. Why do I have such trouble saying that? Which will be coming out probably next month sometime. Now, as far as we're aware, and you know, again, it can't be 100% certain, but it certainly seems like everybody's expecting it to be the case that they will replace, if you own the FV, so if you've unlocked it, you've bought it, and it's sitting in your garage, they will replace it with the Super Conqueror for free, and you will get to keep the FV215B as a sort of special premium-y type tier 10. So effectively, you're getting another tier 10 for free. So if you are, I mentioned this before in the last video, I think if you're somewhere down the line on the British heavies and you want a free tier 10 premium, I suggest you work your bollocks off to try and unlock and buy the buy the FV215B. I'm doing it myself. I'm actually quite enjoying it because the Conqueror at tier 9 I'm really enjoying as a tank, but I'm not sure whether I'll make it, but I'm going to give it a good shot. Anyway, so what about the stats for the Super Conqueror? Well, it's, if I'm honest, they're a little underwhelming. It doesn't seem to be anything different to the FV, and in some cases actually worse than the FV. Hit points, here's a case in point, 2,350. The FV has 2,500, so it's 150 less already. It weighs 73 tons, which is the same as the FV. It has a power to weight ratio of 13, which, let me just find the power ratio, I've lost it, here we go, is 12 on the FV, so it's slightly quicker there. top speed of 34.3, which is exactly the same as the FV. Reverse of 12, again exactly the same. Hull traverse 26 degrees per second, and turret traverse of 34 degrees per second. So at the moment, the gun no, hang on, let me just find it. So I've lost it again. Track traverse is 39, so it's actually slower at traversing than the FE. So which again is weird. So you lose. You better have more armor if this is the case. View range 400. The FV has 410, so you're losing 10 meters there. Now let's get on to the armor. Now this where it gets a little bit complicated, and we don't really know the full detail here. So the hull armor on paper is identical. Well, in fact, it's worse than the FV. So the hull is 152, 76, and 38. The FV has 152, but it has 101 on the side and 76 on the rear. So you're losing a lot of ability to side scrape, which you can do in the FV. Turret wise, however, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. So the FV has 254, 152 on the sides and 101 on the rear. So a very well all around armoured turret, whereas this new Super Conqueror is a bit more on the front, 279, but much weaker everywhere else, 88.9 and 70. However, where it is complicated is there appears to be spaced armour around the turret. Now, if that's the case, that will increase that effective rating considerably. So it could be that this is a real hill warrior, because the problem with the FE is it being a rear-mounted turret, it's not great at that sort of gun depression thing. It's only got 7 degrees of gun depression, whereas this thing, where's the gun depression? Oh, it's still only got 7 degrees. So yeah, so what's the benefit? I don't really get it. Gun wise, well, again, it's underwhelming, frankly. Average damage 400, which is exactly on the FE. Penetration is identical, 259. Rate of fire 6.7, which is actually yeah, so rate of fire is 7.19 on the FE. So you're losing a bit of DPM. DPM is 2,691. On the FV is 2,876. So you're not getting any improvement in actual gun here. Reload speed is slower, 8.9 versus 8.3. And what about gun accuracy? No, this is all pretty much worse as well, or exactly the same actually. So accuracy 0.316, and on the FV it's 0.32. Aim time of 1.9. On the FV it's 1.6. So I don't really get what this tank gives you. I mean, it's a nice looking beastie, don't get me wrong, I quite like it, but really you've got a less mobile, with less side armour, with a gun that doesn't fire as quickly as the FV does, for potentially a bit of spaced armour and a better front of turret. Am I missing something? I don't think so. So I'm a bit perplexed by that, and slightly disappointed. It looks to me like the FV is a better tank, so it's a nerf. But if I'm missing something, let me know down below. But here's Mr. Disappointed from YouTube here. Oh, everyone likes a patch note, don't they? So the 9.20.1 super test patch notes are out, which is good because we get an indication of what we may see, or we will see, in the next patch. Now I imagine the test server will go up very soon, so we'll be able to try some of these things out for real, which would be good, and I'll certainly be bringing some videos if I can of the test server. So what's up in the next things? There's some reworking of the personal missions, which is good. Some changes to that. They're reworking the UI for it and updating some of the sound components, so that's kind of good. No talk yet of a new set of personal missions, but it's been talked about a lot in the past, so I would imagine this will be coming. They will be doing a new one, maybe in the new year. We shall see. Now, what's interesting with this is that there's a new, with the personal missions, there's a new kind of thing you can get called an order. Now, you get an order, a single order, if you complete the final mission of any of the personal mission series with honours. So if you do Heavy Tank 15 for the Stug, for instance, you will also get an order. Now, what do you do with the orders? Well, they can be used to skip other missions that you don't want to do. So you can use your order on any other mission from 1 to 4, and it will effectively mean you have done it, but not with honours. And you will get the bonus, you'll get the credit, you know, whatever the reward was, that's the word I'm trying to say, for completing that mission, you will get it. Now, if you subsequently go back and redo that mission and do it with honours, you'll get that order back, so you can reuse it. So that's kind of a good way of skipping. So I don't know, I know people moaned when these missions were first put in, saying, oh, I never play light tanks, or I never play artillery, and I can't get these missions done. Well, you know, with orders you could skip some of these things. And likewise, if you're stuck on a mission that you really can't get done, like there's a light tank mission which I'm stuck on, where you need to spot 3 artillery. How often these days do you see 3 artillery? So I could use an order to skip that mission, which is good. Now, you can also use 4 orders to complete mission 15. So again, say you are not an artillery player and you have artillery 15 to be done on the T55, but there's no way you're ever going to get it done. You could use 4 of these orders to complete that mission and to get that reward, only the base award, so you wouldn't get the honours reward, which is kind of good, I think. So that's all to be applauded. Now, what's not clear, although I did see, I think it was Aging Jedi speculating that maybe that if you've already completed all these missions, you will get retrospectively these orders. So it could be that we'll all suddenly, if you know, like I've been through I've done the HTC, I've done the Stug, and I've done the T55. So that means I've done 5, 10, 15 personal mission 15s, completed them at least. So it should be, maybe I get 15 orders, which will be very useful, because there's an awful lot the next set that I'm completely stuck on. So that would help me move forward in those. So anyway, that's speculation, don't know that for sure, but I think it's good. They're still looking at the personal missions. There's also some special badges that will be available for completing 75 missions, for instance. Some different camo patterns, which I think again is good. People love things that make them stand out, don't they? Make them look special. The stat twats particularly, they love that sort of thing. You know, well, look at me, I'm so fantastic, and you know, great to them. I think it's good that Wargaming give the poor people like that, inadequates, something to share how good they are. So that's coming through. So you know, pleased for them. Good. Incidentally, I think there was some talk about personalising camos and things like that, and personalising tanks, which I think again could be fun. You know, I'm being facetious, but actually I think it could be quite good to be able to personalise your tank. Is kind of fun. We all have tanks that we particularly love, and if you could do something just to personalise it in some way, yeah, you might want to do that. I mean, it probably cost you money. Well, it will cost you money. It's not going to be for free, that's for sure. So there's some changes to missions. I won't go through them all, but there are a number of changes, particularly around artillery and spotting artillery, because some of those have become very difficult with the new matchmaking that there is. Some of them actually got harder. So there are a couple that have actually got harder. So a lot of changes to the missions, which is going to be interesting. Starting with the next update, epic medals and battle hero achievements will be additional rewards with bonds. So there you go. Again, happy for those people who get really excited about those sort of things. Improvement to the boot camp, which is for the new players, and that's good. I said this before, I think it's great that Wargaming have finally got their act together on helping newer players and getting them into the game, because if we don't encourage new players, if they keep coming into the game and getting their asses kicked because they don't know what they're doing, they won't come back. And then, you know, as players move away from the game, as they do, the player numbers will drop. So they need to keep bringing in new blood, new people who'll be excited, and they need to give them a chance to perform and learn the basics of the game. So anything around boot camps, separating them from the SEAL clubbers that are out there, me included, it's got to be a good thing, I think. So good stuff. A whole load of HD tanks have been reworked, another 15 of those. There can't be many left, I don't think, to get done, but that's cool. And of course the long awaited changes to the UK tech tree. So number one is this replacement of the F3215B with the Super Conqueror, the tier 10 on the heavy tank line. Changes to the Carnarvon around its turret and also gun, so that's going to be cool for those who are stuck down there at tier 8. Look at the changes here, massive numbers. Conqueror likewise. Basically what they seem to be doing with the Conqueror is, well, all the British guns are being improved in terms of caliber, so they're giving them bigger guns. They're going from a 20-pounder to a 32-pounder, which means that they're going to have a slower rate of fire, but generally higher alpha and higher penetration. Is largely what they're doing. They seem also to be making the Conqueror a slower vehicle. At the moment it's quite a nimble tier 9 heavy tank, so all these changes seem to be designed to make it more of a tank, so more of a heavy tank, so it'll be slower with a bigger gun and a better turret armor. Still the hull will be absolute rubbish. What else? Centurion will get both Centurions, the Mark 1 and the 7.1, will get the new turret that the Swedish Centurion has, so much stronger frontal turret armor, makes it a true Ridge Warrior, which is cool. The god awful Challenger down at tier 7, the turreted British TD, is going to get a better gun, about time too. So one of the biggest issues I have with the Challenger is that the DPM on the gun, or the alpha on the gun, is just not good enough at the tier it's at. When you're fighting tier 9s and you're only hitting them for 150 or something, they don't really care. If you hit them for 200 or so, 300, they suddenly start worrying. So they're going to now give it the 32-pounder gun, which has penetration of 220 and a damage of 280. So that's the sort of thing that will make people go, don't want to be hit by that Challenger anymore. So may make that thing a little bit more playable, because I hated it. FV4202, which is the tier 8 British medium premium tank, must have been patched the most occasions of any premium I can imagine. It's getting even more buffing, clearly still not performing the way they want it to. Better turret, so it will match the Centurions. Better engine, so it'll be better on the ridges, be faster. I didn't think it was a bad tank all the way back, but it's going to get better still. The Charioteer, the tier 8 turreted TD, gets better gun depression, basically, which again I think is going to be well appreciated, because the gun depression on that thing was always one of its problems. It only had -5. It's going to go to -9 if you're using the 20-pounder. If you changed, if you use the 105, it'll be even better, 10 degrees. So whoops, which is pretty good. The Conway at tier 9, the other British turreted TD, is going to get a big ass gun. So it's going to get the 5.5-inch anti-tank gun, which is much more in keep. Well, again, it kind of makes it, at the moment, in my view, the Conway is not as good as the Charioteer. It's bigger, it gets spotted really easily. It's obviously a tier 9, so it fights tier 10s that spot you from, you know, halfway across the universe. And the Conway suffers for that. So at least if it's got a bigger gun, it's got a bigger boomstick, it's got a better chance of dishing out some punishment before its inevitable demise. So that's kind of cool. The shipbomb, the FV4005 stage 2, the tier 10 on that line, is likewise getting some love and attention. So It's going to have a better engine, so it makes it more mobile. And its gun depression is being improved considerably, -5 to -10 degrees, which is pretty darn good. And top speed goes from 35 to 50, reverse speed of 12 to 15. So again, really good to see that. I'm just not far off unlocking that, but I'm not entirely sure I want to even buy it. Centurion Action X, sorry, Action 10. People moan at me for saying Action X. The Tier 10 British medium tank gets an improved turret, so it matches the Centurions at 8, 9. So now 8, 9 and 10 will all have thick heads basically. Other things being tested, the German tech tree, or German premium tank destroyer, the Panzer. They're super testing it with a 105mm gun instead of the 90mm that it currently has. We shall see what that means in terms of if you own that tank. Not many people do. Whether or not they're going to swap it out, some people might want to keep the 90. What happens then, we don't know, so we'll see. Changes to the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen at Tier 10, the light tank, which basically is going to nerf its gun, which I find extraordinary. Yeah, don't understand that at all. It's already the weakest link as far as I'm concerned in the light tanks. I mean, admittedly I haven't played it, so I've only played it on the test server, but everything I read about that tank, I don't know why you'd want to get to it, apart from the fact it's very quick. But they're increasing its ammo capacity, but basically everything else is being nerfed. Oh blimey, so many changes. Hype 59, the Chinese Tier 8 God-given medium premium tank, limited matchmaking. Everyone wants one of these things. It's getting improvement in terms of accuracy on the move, and when its turret traverses, and the aim time is being reduced as well for the gun. So yet more buffs. It got buffed I think last time in terms of its armor. Its gun handling is getting buffed. The T-34-3, the Chinese, that's the Tier 8 premium, as Tier 8 tech tree medium tank, also getting improvements for aim time and gun depression. So it goes from 0 to -4, which is a hell of an increase, and the better armor on the hull and turret. The 59 Patton, that god ugly tank, is getting better penetration for its main gun, so it goes from 190 to 212. And 212 is kind of the average now, kind of the norm, if you like, for Tier 8 tanks, really. The WZ-132-1, the Chinese, that's the Chinese Tier 10 light tank, isn't it? Has increased ammo, extra 4 shells. There's the Laza being added in for playtest. The T-100LT, the Russian Tier 10 light tank, is get a better reload time, 8.4 to 7.8, and increased ammo. They are adding in the T-71 CMCD into the tech tree. So this was discussed a couple of rambles ago. This is where they are going to basically separate the American light tank line into those that have an autoloader and those that don't, and the T-71 will form, basically separate that line further, so you'll have the T-71 autoloader and then this thing, which is basically the T-71 but with a single shot cannon. There's also a remodeling of the pattern. Sheridan is getting a whole load of buffs around its damage output, so the shell damage is going to get better. Sheridan obviously is the Tier 10 American light tank. The Bulldog, they're taking away its 70 okay, so they're changing around the guns. They're taking away a number of the shells off it, so it looks like a nerf to the old Bulldog. That used to be a real winner, and you don't see so many of them anymore. Since the change of the lights, it's no longer the tank it once was, I don't think. The Batchat 15555 French thingy. What are they changing here? Basically changing its weight. and its load capacity and its engine power has been reduced considerably, and decrease of hull and turret armor. So that's a nerf, but that's artillery, so yeah, who cares. The tier 10 French light tank, the 13105, is getting a huge buff actually, getting an extra 30 average damage off its shells, actually 40 off that shell, wow, and increased ammo capacity. And Japanese, the SDB-1 is getting improved turret armor. So wow, lots of changes coming in this patch. Be interesting to see, and it'd be very interesting to get on the test server and try some of these out. Really pleased eventually we're getting improvements to the British tech tree. That's certainly long overdue, and I'm sure I know a lot of people have said that in some of the comments before on the videos, as they've improved all the other tech trees. The British one's finally getting there, but I'm not sure about the Super Conqueror. To me, just doesn't look anything special at all. It looks like a nerf in many ways, but the rest of them look good, so excited about that. And also I think the changes to the personal rewards, this orders thing so you can skip, will be very, very useful. And welcome, frankly, to get people moving again on the missions. I don't know many people who are really putting an effort in on them anymore. We've all sort of got stuck at the level we're at, I guess, so that might encourage us to get moving and make a bit more of an effort. Okay, so let's embark on discussing one of the most contentious things I think in World of Tanks at the moment, and that is how how matchmaking works or doesn't work. Now, anybody who's watched any of my videos will know that I've long been a naysayer on matchmaking. I think it's broken. I don't like it. I don't like the new version of it. I think the one before was far, far better. Okay, you got some shit matchups every once in a while, but it's far better than the shit matchups you get pretty much every game now. And it's funny enough, I've been watching, and I watch a lot of other people's videos. I spend a lot of time waiting for my daughter when she's doing one of her various sporting activities, so I end up watching videos a lot. And I've watched Quickie Babe's done something, Aging Jedi's done something, Kellerman's done something. There's loads of people finally launching into the matchmaking being broken. I've been talking about it for a long time, but obviously I'm only a channel with 800 subscribers, so people don't listen to me. But it's clear that matchmaking is not working. Some of the stats Aging Jedi did, and I must admit I'm collecting now my own stats as I play tier 8 games, because he was saying that I forget the exact numbers, you have to go and have a look at his channel, but of something like 100 tier 8 premium tank games he played, he only was top tier like 20% of the time. The vast majority of the games he played, he was bottom tier, and I think if anybody else plays a lot of tier 8s, they'll recognise that you are so rarely top tier. It is not fair. And more often than not, when you are top tier, you're in one of those games where it's an entire team of tier 8s. And it's even worse if you're in a platoon. The matchmaking screws you over even more. To the point where tier 8s, unless they're competitive, or at least they have something to contend against tier 8s, tier 9s and tier 10s, they're just not being played. So there's some tier 8s that just not being played because they can't deal with tier 10s. They can't even deal with tier 9s. They can't even deal, in most cases, with other tier 8s, given the new tier 8s that are out there. So matchmaking is completely screwed. Now they were talking about in the next patch 9.2.0, whatever it is, the next patch coming up, I can never say it, 9.20.1, for God's sake, how difficult is it? They were talking about improving this, and largely this was around weighting. So not as in waiting for the games to start, the actual weighting of the vehicles. So how many times do you go on a game where there is like 7 IS-7s in the game, and 6 of them are on one team and 1 is on the other side, and your side is the one with 1, and your other tier 10s are all mediums or all lighter tanks than the IS-7. And it happens a lot. I streamed a game the other night, and there were 6 Conquerors on one side and 5 E50s on the other side, and you go, well, surely matchmaking should split that up some way. So they were looking at doing this for the next patch, but it's been postponed. It's not going to happen. And it's good to see that finally some of the contributors are waking up to the mess that is matchmaking. I've been long saying that actually the best tiers to play at the moment, in my mind, is tier 9, because you've got a fair chance of being middle or top tier, and you're at least competitive in a tier 10. So 9s are good. 7s, because most tier 7s now are reasonably competitive against tier 9s, and it doesn't seem like you get shafted quite as much with the matchmaking as a tier 8 does. And 6 and 5, because those kind of a bit isolated from the changes. Tier 8 is just, unless you are masochistic or you desperately need the gold or the credits, sorry, tier 8 is a hard place to play now. You know, you finally, I know I go on about it a lot. My KV5, I used to love my KV5. I haven't played it for ages, and the reason why is when I finally go out in it, I'll be in a tier 9 game where there's 5 tier 9s and 10 tier 8s, and all the tier 8s are things like defenders and patriots that just compend you automatically. And the KV5 has very, very good armour against tier 7 and below. Against those sort of super tier 8s, and let alone tier 9s, is just a disaster. And without the armour, it's pointless, because the gun isn't good enough to compete unless you're spamming gold the whole time. Even then, it's not really good enough to compete. So the only thing you've got going for you in that tank is its armour, and if it can be penned with standard rounds with ease by everything it's fighting against, you don't take it out anymore, and that's kind of what's happening. And so they do need to fix this. It's just completely gone wrong, and it's got worse. That's why I find it extraordinary. They said they'd improved matchmaking a couple of patches ago, and I think it's got worse, even since it was originally implemented. Anyway, I'd be interested. I'm keeping a record of my tier 8 matches now, whether or not I'm seeing tier 10s, tier 9s, or being top tier. Then again, when I am top tier, how many of those times I'm one of an entire team of tier 8s, just to see whether it bears out what everyone else is saying. If anybody fancies doing the same, I would love to have those details, so just ping me to my email address, gamerdom13@gmail.com, once you've sort of done, I don't know, 100, 200, whatever it is, games, because it'd be really interesting to compile those stats. I'm certainly doing it. Unfortunately, I'm playing a lot of tier 9 at the moment because I'm trying to grind the Conqueror to get to the FV, but I will keep a record and try and keep an update here on this channel. Anyway, let me know what you think, and you know, also about the platooning. At the end of the day, this is supposed to be a fun game you can play with your mates, and if you're being penalised for platooning, that seems to be trying to make you go it alone all the time and be a sad oh no mates. So yeah, matchmaking, don't get me started. Oh, they already have. Where's the surprise? So finally, a little personal plug for me. I have managed to get myself set up to do streaming, live game streaming on Twitch. I was an idiot. I thought I couldn't do it because I didn't think my computer was good enough and my broadband was good enough. But one of my platoon buddies, Carlos, showed me how he set his up, and he's got a much worse PC and much worse connection than me, and sure enough, it's working really nicely. So I've started to do the odd irregular stream. My Twitch name is GamerDom13, so you can see it in the description down below, but if you get a chance, hop along, and if you follow me, you'll get to see when I'm actually going live. I don't know, I'm going to try and do a sort of a build up to doing a regular schedule of streaming. At the moment, my life is a bit too erratic in terms of kids and work and stuff like that to be 100% certain when I can commit. So if you follow me, you'll get to see, you'll get notification when I do go live. It tends to be quite late UK time, because that's usually when I get the peace and quiet to do it. So if you want to see me game and play games live and see how utterly shite I am at it, occasionally I have the odd good game, as you've seen, but hop along and say hi. It'd be lovely to speak to some of you guys. Obviously we can chat real time then in the chat room, and you know, if you're online and on the right servers, we might even be able to play a few games. So anyway, that's a shout out for me. Twitch, GamerDom13 is my channel. Hop over and say hi. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's quite enough of my ramblings for this week. Quite a big edition, and I hope you didn't mind me moving it a day, mainly because, as I say, I kept putting out on a Thursday morning, and then blow me Thursday, and as we went through to Friday, there was so much more news coming through, and I felt I was missing out, so I've delayed it to a Friday. I may still change it to a Saturday, depending on whether or not this works, but it seems to be a good solution in my mind, just to shift it a day to see how it goes. But hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. Any comments, always welcome. It's great to hear from everybody, and thoughts on rambles. It's and the news and what's happening in World of Tanks. As ever, put it in the chat down below. And if you haven't, if you're new around here and you haven't actually subscribed to the channel, please do. Just click on subscribe and notify. And you know, I post videos pretty much every day. In fact, I do at the moment every day. How sad is that? And really appreciate you coming along to watch. Anyway, and if you get a chance to catch me on Twitch, do please. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously. It is just a damn game, and I will see you again soon. This is GamerDom signing out.